Okay, see here, make sure remember. Okay, welcome everyone. This webinar today, I'm actually very excited about. This webinar will hopefully take you from where you are right now, regardless of the stage of your career, and make you succeed. And at the outset, I want to say that anyone can succeed in the practice of law and do very, very well. There's just a lot of things that most attorneys do that actually prevent them from succeeding and reaching the potential that they can. And anybody, if you went to law school, you passed the bar, you can be incredibly successful at this profession. But a lot of what happens to you is psychology. So I've been involved in the self-improvement industry for quite a while. I've worked and been business partners with people like Tony Robbins and been very involved in helping people kind of reach their full potential. I have a blog, harrisonbarnes.com, where I've written hundreds of articles that have nothing to do necessarily with the practice of law, will help you in your psychology. And today's webinar is really all about that, like how you need to think about your job, how other people are making mistakes and failing because of that reason, how it doesn't matter if you went to a good law school or not as best law school, that you may actually put yourself in a position based on the way you think where you're going to fail. I'm going to tell you what the most successful people do, not just attorneys, and how they succeed and what you can do too. So, congratulations on being in this webinar, because this webinar, I think, is really going to change the direction of your career and life. If you listen to what I'm talking about, I would suggest you take notes, because what I'm going to talk about today, may be one of the most important and transformative presentations you hear. I'm not going to guarantee that, but it's really meant to make you succeed and make you do as well as you possibly can in this profession. So I just see all the time, and it's very sad. I see attorneys that have the motivation sapped out of them. They start settling for much less than they can become. They take jobs that don't challenge, and they walk away from the game of trying to be the best attorney they can be. I see people get out of law school and take jobs where they're not practicing law, even though they passed the bar. I see people all the time get out of law school and take jobs as contract attorneys or paralegals instead of practicing law. I see people quit the practice of law consistently because they don't feel like they can make it in the practice of law, even though they might have an aptitude for it. I see people taking jobs beneath their skill level. I see all of these things happening, and it frankly is very sad, and none of this needs to happen. And people who do this, I think, end up regretting it. I meet former attorneys all the time, and they tell me things like they went to a good law school, worked for a year or two in a big firm. They did all this, but then they gave up. I met an attorney, a guy last night that was a summer associate in a large law firm, and then didn't get an offer, and then dropped out of the practice of law because of that. And all he could talk about to me was the fact that he'd been an attorney at a large law firm for a summer. I mean, but then he just completely gave up, and it's sad. And this happens to a lot of people. And giving up doesn't mean necessarily that you're not practicing law anymore. It means that you're just not reaching your full potential in terms of what you can do. And people give up at all stages of their career. I was speaking last night with a guy that was a counsel attorney at one of the top 10 largest law firms in the country, meaning he wasn't a partner. He was just counsel, and he'd already given up. So he believed that he was never going to be partner. He wasn't willing to do the things that people to become partner do. He was just settled into a job where there's no future, where he could be laid off at any time, and had just completely given up. And I'm talking about people that are at the very top of the profession or the top of the firms. Even people working in these firms give up. But I also speak with attorneys all the time who did not give up, and they have incredible careers. And it doesn't matter if you started at a big firm, small firm, or where you went to law school. All that matters is if you keep pushing forward and you don't give up. And giving up, by the way, can mean a lot of different things. It can mean not applying to enough firms. It could, not learning how to fix your resume, not, listening to things like this. People give up for all sorts of reasons, but many times when they give up, they're not doing the things that could make them successful. So, what would happen if you set your sights on the moon and tried the absolute best you could possibly be practicing law, how would your life change? I was listening to, I was on X.com last night, and there was a clip by Elon Musk, and they were asking him something like, when did you realize you were going to go all in? And he said, I go all in every single thing that I do, like all in, like not half, not halfway, not 75% of the way. He goes all in, just everything he can do. And he says, he doesn't, everyone should work 7 days a week and longer hours, because if you do that, you're like two people. And I'm not saying you have to work 7 days a week and long hours every day, but that's the world's richest man, and that's someone that doesn't give up. And so his life, of course, changed dramatically doing that. He almost failed and lost all his money in 2008, but then he decided to go all in and turned everything around that he was doing, and has ended up being the richest man in the world. So what would happen to you if you did that? And the world, by the way, is full of losers and has-beens. As a matter of fact, when I say losers, I mean people that are losing the game and not reaching their full potential and not going all in. And I meet attorneys all the time as well who have gone all in. And these are the type of people that I want to represent, because those people are going places. And it doesn't matter where they are now, they just keep fighting. And these are the sorts of people that set an example for everyone else when it's possible to commit and never give up. And there's no reason to ever give up. People give up because they say something bad happened, or people give up because they've had maybe 5 or 10 years where they're not reaching their full potential in their legal career, and they think it's never possible. But most of these people are not all in. So you may have given up already. And when I say that to you, the majority of attorneys, meaning more than 50%, are underachieving. Many of them are looking for less challenge, meaning they do not want to work as hard. They are not concerned about where they're going to go. And so they want often less work. They want to have less competition. They are getting less out of life than they could. And many of them are in their mid-20s doing this and have decided to stop playing the game. And then they look for ways to coast. They try to find reduced hours and all these sorts of things. And when you do that, you've essentially given up, because you're not fighting as hard as the people that are going to succeed are doing. And if you want to succeed in the practice of law at the highest levels, you can't give up. You just can't. You stop if you want to ask a lot out of life, meaning you want to be in a position where you're getting what you want, then you need to not give up. And a lot of people, because of their psychology, they're consciously seeking to not be winners and not play the game any longer. And they no longer expect so much out of life. They don't get what they want in life. They don't often feel successful. They have regrets. And then they have all these explanations for why they're not successful. And those explanations are the things that people that don't give up typically don't have. I see on a daily basis, attorneys that started out their careers, they were incredibly motivated. They wanted to take on the world. And then they do things like drop out of law firms and take positions with in-house companies, smaller law firms. Many quit the practice of law. I've even seen people resign from the bar and go inactive. I had one guy working for me that when he got out of law school, he couldn't find a job because he graduated from a top 5 law school at the age of like 20. He was a genius. And he tried to find a job and no one would hire him. And he came to work for me doing some legal work, but then still couldn't find a job. And it's not that I couldn't find him a job, it's just that he stopped trying. And he just decided to resign from the bar and go travel around Asia for a few years. He just literally one of the smartest people in the legal profession when resigned from the bar. And other people find themselves in practice settings where they wouldn't be, meaning less demanding jobs, that they still had fire in their bellies. I see things like attorneys that are like 10-year attorneys in major US law firms doing things like I had one that I was talking to a couple days ago that had been, went to a Yale law school, went to Yale law school. And then he decided after 10 years at a law firm that he wasn't going to become a partner and took this bureaucratic job with the US government because he thought it would be fun and whatever. And then now he's gotten laid off from that position after a year. And he doesn't have, or actually fired, his whole department was fired by Trump, or Elon Musk. But now he's going to have a very difficult time finding a position because he's senior, and it looks like someone that does that has given up on law firms. And that's too bad, because law firms are going to be very hesitant to hire someone like that. So he lost the fire in his belly, stopped trying, and now he's in a position where he's unemployed and will have a difficult time finding a job. So some attorneys, stay in large law firms, or they stay in competitive environments. But then when they do that, they don't have a sense of passion, and they achieve far less than they could if they had the drive to succeed. I had another candidate recently. He was had gone to, I think, University of Virginia Law School, then had gotten a position at a top firm in an Am Law 100 law firm in North Carolina. Then after getting this job, he'd been there for about a year, and he was sat down one day, and they said to him, why don't you have the same drive? You're not as motivated. Look at the other associates around you. And he had, within 1 year, had lost his passion for the practice of law. And so because he wasn't motivated, because he wasn't trying hard, because his heart wasn't in it, he ended up getting fired. And because he was fired, had a very, very difficult time finding a position. I got him some interviews, but he didn't do well in the interviews. And he ended up taking a job as a contract attorney in another major law firm, meaning he's working way beneath his potential just because he'd given up and didn't do his job with a sense of passion. Some people will strive for reduced hours, meaning they don't want to work as hard. And those people have given up, because the people that do that are not going to be advanced. And this lack of passion is going to prevent people from succeeding and getting what they're capable of. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go to a major law firm to succeed. I'm not saying that, you need to even be in a law firm. You can start your own law firm to succeed. But if you start your own law firm, to make that law firm succeed, you're also going to need passion. You're going to come back, you need that. And you need to succeed at the levels that others, are not doing. So I look at resumes of attorneys that have been practicing, and I see people that are in their second or third year of practice that have written like 20 plus articles, given like 15 presentations, done all of this stuff as very young attorneys because they're motivated and they have passion. Other people in their firms, all you see when you look at their bio is where they went to school and what their practice area is. So there are people out there that have passion and do their jobs with passion. And these people get advanced. These people achieve things. And that's what you need if you're going to be successful. You need to do things that other people are not. I do these webinars and I write articles and I do all these things because I have passion about what I'm doing. And you need to be in a job where you have passion. I'm not saying practicing law has to be your job, but you need to do something where you're passionate, engaged, and you like it. And if you're not doing that, your heart's not in something, you're not going to do well. And I'll tell you one thing also, that if you're a young attorney, the first 5 years of practice are basically about hammering out all the bad habits and teaching you how to practice law and so forth. And you need to get through that. And you need to get to a position where have your own clients or where you're running matters. You need to get there, but before you do that, you're going to be challenged. Everybody's challenged. I was in a dinner about 6 months ago. It was pretty cool. I was sitting right next to a Navy SEAL and his wife with one other couple. And the Navy SEAL was talking about something, I don't know, they have something called Hell Week. And what happens in Hell Week, it's very interesting. All these people that make it into the Navy SEALs program are put into this position where they need to stay up, I believe it's for 5 to 7 nights, doing exercises and running in the ocean and doing push-ups and so forth without sleeping. I mean, they might get 1 or 2 hours of sleep a night, but without sleeping, they need to do this for a week. And by the end of the week, there might be 100 people that start this. All it is exercise. All it is a mental challenge. It's something that if your heart's in it, you can do. By the end of the week, if they start out with like 100 people or 200 people, I don't know what the number is, but there's like 12 left. Everybody else doesn't have the passion and their heart's not in it and they give up. Think about that. And then when they give up, I was like, what happens to the people that quit? And so when they quit during the middle of these exercises and so forth, which 90% of the people or something do. They know that they're going to get a hot cup of coffee and a towel or something, that's it. And I said, well, what happens to them when they go back into the Navy? And they said they get these horrible jobs, or they're like scraping paint and stuff on ships, because no one wants them. No one is going to advance them anymore because they've shown that they've given up. Think about that lesson of the Navy SEALs. Like, once you give up, people lose respect for you, even in the Navy. And someone that becomes a Navy SEAL candidate is extremely talented. Many of them have, master's degrees in electrical engineering, went to Ivy League schools and all that sort of thing. But in the end, the people to succeed there and become Navy SEALs are the ones that don't give up. And look at what happens. Scraping paint, cleaning toilets, all this stuff is what awaits people that give up from that program. And the point is, you can actually be anything you want to do. You can achieve anything you want to achieve in the practice of law. And the only thing that's standing between you and your goals is reaching them in your state of mind, what you believe about yourself. And you need to have goals. Everyone needs to have goals. If you don't have goals, then you're just going to drift like a ship that doesn't have, any bearing. You're just going to float around, and people will give you goals for themselves, but you won't have your own goals. And a goal, what is a goal? Well, when a plane takes off, and I used to fly airplanes, and I flew them a long time ago, like before there was GPS and that sort of thing. And when you would fly an airplane without GPS, you would basically point yourself towards these beacons that made noise, and you get closer and closer and closer to them. And so with your headset and everything, and pushing your plane sort of in that direction. And you have to make hundreds of adjustments to reach those. I mean, you're steering the plane different ways, and you're flying all the time. And so you don't just get in a plane and point it at a destination. You get in a plane and you make hundreds of corrections the whole time, because your goal is to get someplace. So when you have a goal, it doesn't mean you're just going to reach it. You have to have the ability to constantly steer yourself, towards these goals. So what happens to a lot of people? So a lot of people are psyched out. They allow others to psych them out and make them feel less capable, less entitled, and less credible for whatever awaits them in life. I was having dinner about 3 months ago, or it was longer than that, maybe 4 months ago, with someone that had been a professor at Syracuse Law School. And he no longer was there, but he was a tenured professor. And he said that Joe Biden's grades, who became president, put him in that last in his class. Like, he was last student, had the lowest ranking in his class. And think about that, like someone that doesn't look like they're set up for success or anything at all. And he ends up eventually, when he was probably too old to be doing it, becoming president after an incredible career in politics. This is a person that was the last ranked in their law school class, and not even like a top 50 law school. So I want you to just think about that. Like, how does that happen? Could that happen to you? You could become president. You could do all sorts of things if you had goals and you kept trying and didn't give up. So people want you to give up. Your competitors want you to give up. Any firm you're at, competitors are going to want to give you up if you to give up. If you're a partner, other partners may often want you to give up so they can advance. And if you allow others to shift your psychology about yourself, you're going to believe that mediocrity and performing beneath your capabilities is successful. But when you do that, others are still fighting, others are still playing the game, and they seek success, recognition, fulfillment, and every single thing that comes with it. And they most often get it. So look at, around you, and you'll see people that are succeeding. You will see families that are happy and succeeding, and where there's harmony and the family's doing well. You'll see attorneys, when you pick up legal newspapers, that are being written about for how successful they are. You'll see attorneys that are on television talking about legal matters and sought out for their advice. You'll see people that have homes that you envy and you would like to own, and that you don't have. You'll hear about people that are billionaires or have a ton of money in bank accounts you don't have. You'll hear about people taking the sorts of vacations you'd like to take that you're not doing. You'll think about people that have titles and are at firms you would like to be, and realize, I'm telling you right now, that all of this can be yours if you ask for it. So if you don't psych yourself out and you allow others to psych yourself out, you're not going to achieve anything. Everything is yours for the taking, but only if you realize and believe it is. Again, I meet people that didn't go to great law schools all the time that don't give up. I met a guy about a year ago that graduated from bottom of his class from low-ranked law school in Los Angeles, Southwestern Law School. Couldn't get a job for 6 months, kept trying and trying and trying. Got a job with a guy that was a solo practitioner doing personal injury law, kept trying and trying and trying, and got very good at it. And he learned how he brought in business, learned all these things about being a personal injury attorney. And then he started his own practice and has settled cases where he got fees of like $10 million and so forth. And he did all this within like 5 or 6 years of graduating from law school, even though he didn't look like someone that could work in a large firm, or someone that didn't look like they were not, that they would be employable, that someone that had all these bad things happen to him, but he didn't give up. So, I'm the first person to admit that when you're a competitive attorney, the more competitive firm you're in, the harder it is. It's like, imagine if you were a high school basketball player joining a professional basketball team. I mean, it would be very, very hard for you. And it's very hard for a lot of attorneys because the environment is very competitive. And there's, very few people out there who become partners at large law firms or general counsels of major corporations, successfully, have found their own law firms and accomplish great things and don't have any regret after. I mean, there are a lot of people like that. And these are things that you can do too. People that don't give up are proud, they have more confidence, they're successful, and they're happy about the things that they've achieved. And they don't have a lot of regret. And then there's the people that fail and allow themselves to be marginalized and not successful. And these people regret not doing more. People that walk away from the practice of law and stop playing the game often will write articles. You'll see them about how difficult it was and why no one should do it. You'll see them talk about how you got to do all these things that you don't want to do to succeed. They'll talk about how the law firm model is flawed. And honestly, I don't think any of this makes a lot of sense, because people who give up on the game, and I'm telling you straight up that I'm someone that gave up, will tell you how difficult it is and why practicing law is such a tough profession. Now, if I talk about giving up, I didn't give up. I started something that I was passionate about that's still related to the practice of law. And you can do the same thing. You don't have to practice law. You just have to not give up. You have to do whatever it's going to take for you to reach what you believe is your full potential. And partners that inside of major law firms succeed at a very high level, they have stories as well. But they don't sit there and harp on those stories. They honestly have probably overcome a lot of challenges, but they're so busy succeeding and trying to succeed that, until something, when something nasty happens to them, and bad stuff happens to everyone. I'm going to talk to you today about all these people that have become incredibly successful despite bad things happening to them. Once they, are focused on what they want, they don't stop playing. They don't give up because something bad happens. They don't allow others to tell them they're not competent enough or good enough. They're focused on playing the game. And the people that are winning at the game are not complaining. It's the people who are losing and whose heart's not in it anymore who complain and will tell you why they're not succeeding. So I want to talk to you now about how others are probably, intimidating you, and how, survival tactics and so forth are going to shape your career. It's very interesting when I used to watch these kind of nature shows and things, and they always show things like when different animals are breeding and so forth. And animals will intimidate other animals. They'll do so with growls and fangs and scratches and things to keep other animals away from food. They'll do so often. They'll have all these fighting and things that happen between deers. You can hear them cracking in the woods, their antlers hitting each other, fighting over a potential mate. And they'll growl at them and bare their teeth and do all this aggressive behavior and fight a little bit to get other people away. And they're trying to intimidate people. They're trying to intimidate other animals. And when they win at that, they win. And so, some animals get intimidated and they're not part of the breeding stock. They don't eat as much, and others don't get intimidated. Animals chase chase others around for food. Some animals will give up and die, and others don't. And in the law firm, humans, by the way, are animals. This intimidation can take a lot more complex forms. I mean, anybody that's trying to intimidate you, that's telling you, you're not good enough, they're your peers, or they're doing things, they're doing the exact same things as another animal would do to another animal. So you just need to watch this when this stuff's occurring and realize that people are trying to take away your spirit and make you think that you're not entitled to whatever it is the reward is, whether it's a bigger bonus or employment security or anything. They're trying to intimidate you. And life is a survival game. Everything is a survival game. Your profession is a survival game. In the practice of law, if you stop moving, you die. It's very interesting. Attorneys that have breaks in their resume, that don't have a position for a period of time, look like people that aren't surviving and whose heart isn't in it. And it's very difficult for them to get hired. It's very difficult for attorneys that leave law firms to go into other practice settings to get back into law firms because it looks like they can't do it, or they've given up, or they don't want to do it. And these are games in the law firm, and you have to realize the rules. And again, watching these sorts of webinars is a very smart thing for you to do, because you're learning about these games, but you're also learning things every day that's going to help you be more successful. And the higher level of firm you compete at, meaning the more competitive firm, the harder firm to get into, the harder people will try to psych you out, because these are the most competitive people. Your superiors will often psych you out, sometimes not directly, but they'll say things that will psych you out. Your peers will do it. Everybody is trying to get ahead of you. It doesn't matter who they are, so they can achieve more and keep more for themselves. The same thing, by the way, when people become partners in law firms, they often say, I wish I was an associate because it was so much easier. It was not as nearly as competitive. So partners, by the way, are very competitive with one another. So as you get further up on the chain, things become even more competitive. And one of the things that I see a lot of, and it happens, is people trying to psych other people out through rumors, manufactured crises, and all sorts of things. People will often leave the practice of law because of something like that. I mean, they'll leave for just completely ridiculous reasons, and I'll give you some reasons. So these are things that will happen in a law firm. If you give too many details of your personal life, and those don't seem like good things to other people, that will be used against you. So just keep in mind that anything you say will be used against you. If you go tell people that you have a drinking problem, that will be used against you. If you tell people, if you have had too many drinks at a Christmas party, for example, that's going to be used against you. People will say bad things about you because of that, and they won't give up. They'll continue saying it. If you're late for a meeting, that will be used against you in an attempt to permanently take you out of the game. So I had one guy that was a partner at a major US law firm and making a lot of money. He was making probably $1.2 million a year. He went to a Christmas party and he tripped after the Christmas party, going into a taxi, and was kind of very talkative and stuff and having fun, but not too much fun at the firm's Christmas party. And that was used against him. All of a sudden, he became like on the outs politically because he didn't have a lot of business and was terrified and had to start looking for a new job. And even though he probably could have pushed through that if he just put his head down and worked harder. I had another attorney. He was late for a meeting, and the meeting was some sort of document signing. He was 6 months in his career, and that was used against him. And he actually ended up getting fired, and he could have found another job because they gave him a couple months on the website, but he allowed that to intimidate him and take him out of the game. That was a very sad story, by the way, because he was late for the signing because he'd been up so long, and when he tried to get up, I don't know, his alarm, he didn't hear it or something. Having a heart attack or cancer or health problems can often be used against you. You'll be seen as not able to work as hard or whatever, or potential liability. If you take too many vacations compared to your peers, that's going to be used against you in terms of people trying to take you out of the game. I had an attorney that went to Stanford Law School, and he failed the bar. And the second time he failed the bar, the firm said normally they would have fired him. But he decided, they kept him on, which was a really good thing for them to do. It was very nice, and they gave him a third shot. He probably didn't pass the bar not because he wasn't smart enough, but because his heart wasn't in it. He didn't try as hard as he could because he was obviously smart enough to pass it. And then after failing the bar the second time, the firm keeping him on, he decided to take a 2-week vacation to Europe with his fiance. He came back and lost his job because obviously heart wasn't in the game. So that was used against him. If you're not in the office enough, that can be used against you to take you out of the game. So I had another attorney that was extremely talented. He was at a very good firm in Los Angeles, Coin Emanuel, and he lived in Orange County, so he had a long commute there because the office was downtown and it could take an hour and a half to get there with traffic. And that was used against him. So when he became up for partner, he was told that he wasn't in the office enough. And then they made him a counsel. And that's what he continued to do for the rest of his career. If he'd been motivated enough, he probably would have moved to Los Angeles or got an apartment or something during the week, but he wasn't in the office enough. That was used against him. Not being aggressive enough to track down assignments will be used against you in an attempt to permanently take you out of the game. And it works. I was working with a guy that had lost his job probably 9 months in, gone to Columbia Law School and was in New York and got a job with a major law firm. Every week at 8 a.m., a partner in another office would email assignments and to a group of first-year attorneys, and the first ones to grab them would get the assignments. He didn't want to come in at 8. He thought it was beneath him. And because of that, he didn't get assignments enough hours. He lost his job and couldn't find another one in New York because it's very, very competitive. And if you're unemployed, law firms will prefer, especially at that level, will prefer to hire someone who's employed because there's enough attorneys to go around. And if you're not, don't look good on paper, that market is not going to be welcoming because they have so many people that they can hire. If you make a bad comment, that can be used as someone, you say the wrong thing that doesn't sound right or something, or, to someone who's really uptight. That can be used against you. Consensual affairs in the office can take people out of the game. That happens all the time as well. I had one guy in Chicago that had a $20 million book of business. About 5 years previously, he had had an affair with a paralegal in the office. And then it had ended 4 years ago. And it came to the firm's attention that he had had an affair with someone that he was a superior of. And they fired him. And he could not get another job after getting fired, even having all this business, and ended up having to go to work at someone that was starting a company, not even practicing law. So I just want you to think about that. Like, this is a person that was at the very, very top of the pinnacle of the legal profession, probably one of the top 50 people in Chicago in terms of the amount of their business. A consensual affair took him out of the game. Failing the bar can be used against you to permanently take you out of the game. Now, you can always recover from failing the bar. You can recover from failing the bar if you fail 10 times, but it's going to be used against you to take you out of the game. And so you need to keep your heart in it. And by the way, not failing the bar is not a badge of intelligence or non-intelligence. It's just a badge of not studying enough and figuring out how to do it. If you make a typo in an important legal document, that can be used against you in an attempt to take you out of the game. I had an instance happen when I was clerking for a judge. And we did these things called habeas corpus petitions, where prisoners would try to write these motions to get new trials and get out of prison. And I made a mistake one time where I put that the person's attempt to get out of prison was granted. I don't know what I did. That almost got me fired. That was very early in the clerkship, 3 weeks in. That had I not, I could have quit at that point. I was terrified about the mistake, but I ended up improving. Social media comments can be used to take you out of the game. I had a woman that was moving over with a group of partners and a couple other associates to a new firm in Los Angeles. And she, again, is someone that had very good qualifications, had gone to, I think, Berkeley for law school. And someone saw her social media post that had been made like a year ago where she said she didn't like practicing law and something she didn't enjoy. Someone found that when they were bringing her over, and she ended up not being able to move, lost her job, and became permanently unemployed. I mean, it's just crazy, and doing something else. That took her out of the game. Your desire not to work with certain people in the firm you don't like can be used against you to take you out of the game. I had a guy that didn't. This interesting thing that happened. This group of partners from another firm came over to another large law firm's branch office. The partners from the new firm had a lot of business, and when it came time to make partners in the firm, they made partners that were from their firm, and they had enough power and not the existing people that were at the firm. So this attorney, after this happened, one of the partners that had made, other associates partner in the firm came over and gave this attorney an assignment that was basically the kind of work that a first-year attorney would do. And he tried to give him this work, and he was very offended because this guy, he knew he's someone that had kept him from being partner. The guy gave him this assignment to do. He said, you know what, I'm really upset right now. I don't have time, for this kind of politics or whatever you're doing. So I would appreciate, you giving this to someone else. This guy had been at this firm for 12 years, had worked very, very hard, and didn't make partner and was upset. And so he said this to a very powerful partner. The partner came back into his office about an hour later, and he said, I'm going to give you two choices. One, you can leave today and, and do, and because you're fired. And the second is you can sign this agreement and we'll give you this check for, I don't know, $30,000 or something, or 50,000, and you can leave today, but you have to agree not to sue us. I mean, this is literally what happened. So this guy lost his job and spent months unemployed just for not taking an assignment. Sometimes, something you did years ago, a previous firm can be used against you, or something that happened years ago that seems non-consequential can be used to take you out of the game. I had a woman I was working with that was a associate in a major U.S. law firm's office in Los Angeles. She had been given, someone had asked her to do an assignment 2 years previously, and no one ever said anything about it. And then when it came time to discuss her being a partner, they told her, you will never be partner because, you were very, you upset this person a lot when you didn't do this assignment for them. I mean, this is stuff that's happened. I'm just telling you how people will use things against you. Someone, who worked more hours than you on something can be used to permanently take you out of the game. I had a woman that didn't make partner in a large law firm that I was upset about. And I talked to the person that would have been in charge of making her partner. And he said, well, the person that made partner worked 3,000 hours last year, and she only worked 2,400 hours. I mean, so that was used to psych someone out. I mean, she gave up and went to another firm. That was used to take her out of the game. So, people will try to take you out of the game for all sorts of reasons. Some of these reasons, as I've told you, are completely non-consequential. They're not really that serious. But, when that happens, you just can't give up. And people do. I mean, most of the people I'm talking to you about had these things happen and gave up. And this is what practicing law is. This is what being in a competitive environment is. And you may hear this and think this is freaking crazy. But the people that give up, nothing happens. They give up for these reasons, and they quit the practice of law, or they move firms every time someone, anytime there's some sort of criticism or something, they will move jobs frequently, or they'll go to firms beneath them, or many times they'll just go into completely different careers, or they'll move from a law firm to the government, or, from a law firm to a company. Sometimes they'll do these geographic locations where they think that things are going to be different if they're in Los Angeles as opposed to New York. And they'll do all sorts of things, because they might have been intimidated by something that happened that I talked about above. And many times, sometimes the people that are trying to take you out in a law firm may not even have any power. Sometimes these are the worst people to deal with. I mean, they'll always come up to you and they'll tell you, or they'll make comments that whatever you've done must be some sort of mortal sin and you need to give up and quit. And nothing's ever going to happen to you. So think about that. Are there people around you that are doing that? There probably are. And sometimes they may be people that are fellow associates or whatever. And you just can't listen to any of this nonsense, because the people that succeed in anything, whether it's politicians, actors and actresses, sports figures, business people, whoever, they don't give up. Powerful people, and I'll talk about a lot of them today, have experienced an incredible amount of resistance from the world before they got to where they wanted to go. Sometimes they faced years or even decades of rejection, long hours, fierce opponents, like competition. Many times these people, face bad press, personal problems, going into rehabilitation, multiple divorces, bankruptcies, all these sorts of things, and they didn't give up. So let me tell you about learning about the failures of other people and what you can learn from them, because most of the most successful people out there have failed. If you read like Wikipedia entries about anyone, which I like to do, who's achieved anything of importance in the world, you're always going to find that their careers almost always have been, marred by scandals, rumors, and all sorts of problems. And these sorts of people worked incredibly hard. They experienced massive resistance, and they failed a lot of times, multiple times before they succeeded. And the same thing with attorneys. Every attorney has faced incredible resistance, failures, numerous attempts to take them down. And often those success takes them down one time, but they keep trying. And nearly every U.S. president, it's fun reading about them because you can see all the failures and things that they've experienced before they succeeded, and they didn't listen to the negative messages, and they weren't allowed to be demotivated, and they didn't allow these negative messages to shape how they felt about themselves. They gave themselves positive messages, and they didn't allow any of this stuff to sidetrack them. And so, if you take a demotivated attorney, someone that doesn't like practicing law, and you put them in front of something that they like. Some people like video games. Some people have other hobbies. They might like basketball or tennis and they like it. Then all of a sudden they're very empowered and they light up and they have enthusiasm that you would expect for someone who's in their element and doing what they like. And so that's the other thing. I mean, maybe practicing law isn't something you like. Maybe there's something else that motivates you and you feel positive about. There's nothing wrong with going to the government or working for a company because you want to have only one client. But you have to ask yourself if you're giving up. And if you're doing things you like, you're probably going to be competitive. I mean, you see I've seen people that, are incredible at sports that just seem completely unmotivated practicing law. And then they start practicing sports and it's just like they're completely different people. And so, you don't want to have, you want to have that kind of enthusiasm you would have when you're doing something you enjoy. And you're going to come up with the resistance practicing law. It's going to be unpleasant sometimes, but you're going to need to keep that drive and enthusiasm to reach your full potential or give up altogether. I had an interesting thing happen when I was working for this law firm called Dewey Ballantyne, and they had never made a partner in their Los Angeles office from someone that started as an associate. And this associate was joking with a partner in the firm that, no one ever makes a partner here. And he said, well, the only reason people don't make partner is because they leave. So had they stuck around, just like the Navy SEALs, and not given up and left, they would have succeeded. So, can you be motivated in one area of your life? Can you not give up? Because if you're motivated by something you do that you really enjoy, then you need to find that level of passion and commitment to what you're doing. I talked earlier about attorneys that write all these articles and give all these presentations, and sometimes they'll go get certifications or do different things to look like they're more to just show they have passion for it. And think about, what would you want if you were a client? Or what would you want if you were a law firm? Would you want someone on your website that has just said where they went to law school in their practice area, which most attorneys have? Or would you want someone that has all this passion and all these articles and presentations and all this additional stuff that they've done? Would you want that person representing you? Would you want someone representing you with passion for something or not? If you were seeking a doctor, would you want someone that just had where they went to medical school and of their practice area, someone that was an expert and had done all these things related to their discipline? But is that who you'd want to represent you if you were sick? So, when you're trying to succeed, you're going to have more problems. A lot of attorneys think that if they get a law degree, they're going to get a good job and be happy. I mean, this is what most people believe when they apply to law school. They believe when they get out of law school that if they work hard in a law firm and they become partners, they're going to be happy. People believe, sometimes if they go to a great law school, that that's enough. They've competed based on that and things are going to be easy. People also often believe that they can succeed without working extremely hard. Attorneys believe that it's going to be simple to find clients and they don't have enough passion for their practice area or for what they're doing to go and figure out how to do it. So how do you find clients? One time someone said to me something that I thought was kind of funny, and I took it to practicing law. We were talking about like, how do you find like a good mate, like a good life partner or husband or wife? And people figure it out. I mean, they want to have families and be married. They figure it out. It's like no one's going to tell them a game plan of how to do it. It's the same thing with finding clients. You figure it out. You read about how other people are doing it. You figure it out. That's all you need to do. A lot of people, this is very common. They go to top law schools. They get these incredible scores on their LSATs. They may do a clerkship or something and get a job with a great firm. And they think that the world's going to reward them with money, security, success, and more right from the start. I had a woman working for me once that was helping me start a magazine. I used to have a magazine, and she'd gone to Harvard Law School and been at the top of her class and even clerked for a U.S. Supreme Court justice. I mean, this is how freaking amazing this woman was. And she'd given up. She went to a major U.S. law firm and worked there for a year and a half and gave up. And when I hired her, she was unemployed, and I helped her start a magazine. This is an example of people that give up. And you just, the further you attempt to go, whether you clerk for a Supreme Court justice, the more problems you're going to have. And, you're never going to get an absence of problems. It's how you react to those problems. And if you don't react properly to those problems, you're going to die, meaning you are going to not have the career that you have. You're not going to reach your full potential. And the more vibrant and successful you are, the more problems you'll have. I see people that lose their jobs or are losing their jobs that are extremely selective about the firms that they apply to. They think that they can sit around and apply to only the best jobs and not be proactive with their searches and apply to firms that don't have openings and all this sort of stuff. And they've given up. I mean, they're not fighting, and you can never stop fighting. And so here are the realities. And I'll just tell you, this is what happens. The more money you have, the more likely you're going to be sued by others who take it away. If people think you have money or you're a successful business or whatever, you are a target. It's just absolutely true. The more success you have at work, the more of that envy is going to make others, unhappy that you're competing with. And the more the people will want to take you down. And the better you are at anything, the more criticism you're going to receive. Look at famous actors, look at politicians, look at people that the society especially respects. People are trying to take them down all the time. They're jealous. They're jealous of people that are more successful. And so they write these attack pieces. People want to see you fail. It doesn't really matter. And people like seeing other people fail. They don't write it so much about people succeeding, how they do it. They write about people that are failing. I've had people come at me in every direction. I've had people sue me that are employees for reasons that have nothing to, just made up reasons, to take away my money, to take away my house and sue me. I've had people try to take away my self-respect by writing bad things about me. They may take something I wrote completely out of context and turn it into headlines. I mean, and it wouldn't happen to me if I wasn't succeeding, but it happens. It goes with any territory. And lots of people, if they're confronted with these things and bad things that happen, they give up. I could have given up multiple times, and I've made lots of mistakes. And I know that, there are competitors who don't like me having, success and want to take that away. And it's just what happens. And, I would have been in situations where it could have been very attractive to give up. But, if you lose and you're someone that doesn't keep playing the game, your people are going to stop messing with you. It's very easy. It's like the Navy SEALs. If you stop on day 5, you get, you're no longer playing the game and no one's competing with you. And people want you to give up. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. People around you don't want you to succeed at the level that you're capable of doing, and they will try to make it difficult for you. And people are only, by the way, messing with people and undermining people that are the most successful. So the more successful you are, the more you're going to have a target on your back. How does that work? So people, when they get into law firms, will see people that went to better schools than them, and those people that went to better schools may do something wrong. Then people will be like, "Wow, they went to this great school, but they made this stupid mistake, so they're not really as smart as me." People are trying to tear other people down, and so the more success you have, the more people are going to come at you. It's just how it works. And if you're going to be happy and successful, you need to stop giving a shit and develop coping mechanisms for these problems. And if something isn't working, you need to work harder and harder and harder. This needs to be your priority. If someone criticizes you for making typos, you need to not make sure you don't make typos anymore. If someone criticizes you for not working hard enough, you need to work harder. If someone criticizes you for not coming in the office enough, you need to come in the office more. And you need to learn how to solve problems and realize that everybody you're competing with is in the same game. Talking to this guy yesterday was very interesting. He was a counsel in a law firm, and he'd given up. He thought that, I never can reach the levels of success I want to. You're giving up. So here's why most attorneys give up and how you can stay in the game. So people, after a certain length of time, maybe even when they're in law school and they get bad first semester grades, will give up and retreat because they've reached the conclusion that the game they're playing and so forth, and trying to defeat these problems, they can't succeed. And maybe it's because they didn't get a job at the right law firm. Maybe it's because they didn't get advanced in the right law firm. Maybe it's because they didn't get enough clients. Maybe it's because they didn't have enough work. Maybe it's because their bonus wasn't large enough. They don't get the good enough review and so forth, and they think the game's not worth playing, not realizing that maybe it's just the wrong environment for them, the wrong culture of the firm. People just give up. It's crazy. When I was at University of Chicago, there were two guys that kind of caught my attention, and it was very interesting. So one guy started his first semester of college and took like the hardest science classes he could take his first semester, the hardest math classes, and he didn't get good grades in those classes, and uh, concluded that because of that, he was never going to be successful. So he stopped trying. This is at a top college. And then there was another guy just like that had come from a small rural high school, and he'd been valedictorian of his class. And the same thing happened to him his first semester. These guys started smoking weed, drinking a lot, and just gave up. Like they just completely gave up. So most attorneys, end up giving up, like these people I was talking about. They may give up with negative beliefs, like it's too difficult to find a position. Instead of watching webinars like this or reading articles that I've written that will tell you exactly how to do it, sometimes they give up because they think that there's never going to be any reward for the long hours, or it's too difficult to get ahead, or everyone they're working with, doesn't like them, or they're in the wrong environment. Law firms, by the way, are very political. Your success can happen based on being on the right side of politics. So how do you do that? How do you make sure that you stay out of trouble and don't side with different people for different political reasons? I was talking to a partner about a month ago, and he was at a law firm. He'd been there for 30 years. He had a big book of business, and he got on the wrong side of a political issue. And because of that, he was pushed out of the law firm and got into a situation where he could have given up, but he kept trying. He just didn't stop, trying. He came to me. He allowed me to find a bunch of places for him to work, and he gave up. And so, it's not the problems themselves that are going to make people, withdraw. It's the ability to cope with those problems and take action when they happen and overcome them. That's just what it is. And I've told you about all sorts of stupid reasons that people have lost jobs. And those people, in many cases, give up or people get into situations where they don't feel like they're going to be successful. They stay complacent, and you just need to be able to cope. And how do people cope? Like, how do you cope with the stress and things of your job? What do you do to cope? So I do certain things, like I like to exercise. I find time to do that each day. because I know that if I don't, then I'm not going to be as effective because it, clears the tension in my body and my mind. I do this every day because it helps me stay focused, relaxed to deal with the world where people are jealous or where things are dysfunctional or people are trying to undermine me. I watch my diet so I can, be as effective as possible. I do things like I meditate, I sit in the sauna, I do all these things to make sure I'm more successful. I used to like drinking on the weekends. I thought that was a good way to relax and forget about my problems. But that also has a high price because then I'm tired and I can't get things done. So I don't drink anymore. I mean, I got stopped that so I could get shit done. I'm more alert, focused, and interested in playing the game. So if you have bad habits, you can fix those. I like to write down goals for my day. Every day I start my day and write down goals. And I have weekly goals. Then I have goals for the month. The year I go in the ocean. I go to church when I can. I saw George Bush speak not too long ago. I was in this CEO group and saw him speak with a small group of people. And he said he reads the Bible every day. I mean, this is, interesting. So I started trying to do that before bed. I like to spend time with my kids and vacation and things. I go to business conferences. I do home improvement projects. I do all these things to clear my mind, and then also things to make me more effective. Like I read a lot of nonfiction about spirituality and other things that interest me. I like to play with my dogs. I watch biographies about business people and speak with coaches. I do all this to stay in the game. And if I didn't do this stuff, I wouldn't still be playing. And so, you also need to have, the right information about the game. So what is the game? I mean, whatever you're doing, if you're practicing law, this is a game. So you should be reading things that I write and seeking out advice from people, not just myself, but people that are succeeding practicing law. I like to read nonfiction. A lot of very successful attorneys I know listen to a lot of nonfiction. One of the most, a very successful attorney, the partner in a big law firm that failed the bar, that had started out a small firm, just kept trying. And one of the things that he does that I thought was very interesting is he doesn't have time to read a lot, but he has time to listen to nonfiction, things that motivate him while he's reviewing documents and stuff. I like to go to peer groups. These are about staying in the game, and conferences are in the game, and all this stuff can help you be in the game if you get the information about the game. Like, what is the game I'm playing? You're learning about it right now. And then, if I do the things that I do, it helps me to be in the right position. It's not too difficult to do that. I mean, you need to figure out like what the game is, and you need to learn the rules. And people that learn the rules and stuff that I'm teaching, I don't have any insights into this profession other than I've been being a recruiter for 25 years and I see people succeed and fail. So I'm telling you about what they need to do right now. And you never need, to stop playing the game. When you learn anything new, there's a book by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if it's called The Tipping Point or something, but he talks about how people that are successful in really any profession, it takes them about 10,000 hours. So it takes you about 10,000 hours to learn a practice area. So that means 5 years of doing nothing but your practice area to understand what it is and to get good at your job. And then if you want to get even better, then there's other things you need to do. So, working long hours when you're young is just something that's you're learning a skill. Like there's nothing wrong with working long hours. I was, based on what I know, I'm amazed that law firms even pay people the first few years because they're being taught and they're not having to pay to be taught. They're getting paid to be taught. And when you're older, all that training and stuff pays for your children's education or brings you closer to something that's going to give you more job security and all these things, that will help you and that you should do. So, and then people, when they get more senior, need to get clients. And then there's rules for that. If you don't get clients, you're not going to be playing the game at the highest level. So you don't need to be a salesman, to get clients. You just need to do other things that can help you do it and figure it out. So everyone, if you're in a law firm, could be to be a partner. Every associate's your enemy. Everyone's going to try to undermine you, but you need to, keep trying. Everybody that succeeds, anytime you're doing something well, you have a target on your back. And there's lots of people out to get every successful business person, Every business is constantly under attack from other people that are innovating, coming up with new ways to get things done. Every person is constantly under attack. The government is out to get you. If you own a house, they're always going to tax it. And if you don't pay your taxes, they're going to take it away. Your earnings, they're going to take away. And whatever else that they can, they're going to come after you, by taxing you when you make money. They're going to come after you by taxing your property. They're going to come after you by taxing your car when you want to drive it. Everybody's taxing you and trying to take something away. The police are out to get you. If you drive too fast, they're going to take your money. If you park illegally, they're going to take your money. Everywhere you turn, there's people out to get you, and the whole world is basically stacked against you. People are going to tax you. People are going to watch to make sure you don't make mistakes. People are going to get you when you commit crimes, and just everybody really, I'm sorry, is out to get you, and you should be paranoid about that, and just realize you need to cope. You cope with the government taxing your paycheck. You cope with everything you need to do, but if you don't cope, you're out. So if you motivate yourself, then success is going to follow. So to achieve anything you're capable of achieving, you do need to have drive and you need to have passion. You need to believe, in the same sort of future you believed in when you were young and decided to become an attorney. Like, think about when you were young. Did you have enthusiasm? Did you, what happened to that enthusiasm? You need to believe in what's possible. And, the only way you're going to achieve any of this is if you're motivated and you don't allow people to undermine you, because everybody is under attack. It's just how it works. Years ago, I was working with this business coach, and he was trying to put all these rules into place in terms of how the legal recruiters that worked for our company recruited. And, he couldn't believe, that I was doing things like recording their phone calls and giving feedback, making them send reports what they did each day, and other sorts of burdensome things that uneducated salespeople would have to do. And, despite this lack of micromanagement, or he couldn't believe that I wasn't doing these things. And I wasn't micromanaging, but most of the recruiters at the company were doing better and better, year after year. Some of them were making placements that, 10 plus others weren't doing in a year. And these recruiters that were doing well, were achieving all of this without management. The revenues were rising, the profits were increasing, and things were going well in everything they did. And this particular business coach had a background in working for large corporations where people, were assumed to be unmotivated, need to be driven by reports on their performance. This week, for example, Elon Musk emailed all federal employees saying, "What did you do this week?" Because he felt that they weren't motivated. This particular person that was my business coach worked with law firms, and and under that there was a management style where people were rewarded for the hours they worked and the amount of business they generated. And me personally, I've done probably incredible number of business mistakes, but I've also done a lot right. And but what I did is I had hired recruiters that were were self-motivated. And most of the recruiters, by the way, I've hired are people that came to me as candidates. And so they had very good profiles as candidates and they were accepted. So they're not people that necessarily, had dropped out of the practice law. They're people that had these incredible scholastic records in colleges, and they were, employable in major law firms and excellent attorneys. And, what made them different, they probably could have been, very successful, practicing law, but they had these personalities that were outgoing and not necessarily ones that would make them happy. They were people that were givers and not takers, and excited about meeting different types of people, which you do all the time when you're recruiting. And, these people knew exactly who they were. And the records showed a consistent level of motivation. When you see people with resumes where they graduate Phi Beta Kappa and things from college, and then they go to law school and they try as hard there, and then they get into good law firms and they keep trying, that these are self-motivated people that figure out how to get things done. And these recruiters that were successful didn't really care what people thought of them. They're happy to pick up the phone and talk to someone, even if the person's not nice to them. And they have something inside of them that makes them internally optimistic. And, these attorneys, became recruiters, could achieve whatever they wanted to do. So they succeeded at anything. I remember one time, I apologize for that. I have this computer. It's a new computer, and it keeps restarting for some reason. So hopefully we'll make it through the end of this webinar. So give me 1 second. I'm glad that this we ended very close to the conclusion here. So 1 second. Okay. So the example as you've given is that being a legal recruiter is difficult, and our recruiters, this company succeed because of their motivation, and their strength comes from when inside of them. They're self-motivated, and they end up doing very, very well. To close, I wanted to just tell a couple quick stories that you may have heard, are kind of interesting. When you look at the career of like Donald Trump, there was a White House Correspondents' Dinner years before he ran for president. He was there and had talked at one point about being president. And Obama made all these comments about him, saying, how he would never be president, like he's busy, coming up with conspiracy theories like my birth certificate, or just maybe he'll do the moon landing was fake next. He was making fun of him and saying his most recent achievement was firing someone during an apprentice. He used to have a show called The Apprentice, and making fun of him and basically saying he would never be president. And of course, he did, and replaced Obama in the White House and succeeded because of that. And then, of course, became president, faced all this criticism and stuff from media, and attacked and attacked and attacked. Overcame that, and then got impeached president. Then after he left being president, people brought all these criminal charges against him. He was convicted of felonies. I mean, think about all the resistance someone like that has come up against, and just being resilient and not allowing people to bring them down. Same thing if you ever read like the biographies of people like, Abraham Lincoln, like overcoming all of these things, basically losing and losing and losing and losing, and then, eventually running for president, becoming president. So everyone that succeeded in anything has overcome incredible challenges, incredible criticism, incredible losses. And you should do the same. You need to overcome those things, and you need to stay motivated in the face of not succeeding at the level you can succeed at. There's a poem that I really like, and I'll share it when we start the questions. But it talks about how all these people in all these different professions have the mindset you need to succeed, and that you need to have persistence on things. I always recommend people review the book Think and Grow Rich. I love that book because it talks about persistence and having desire and all these things that are important for you if you're going to succeed. You need to do those things. And, for the past 2 decades, I remember my father telling me how fortunate he felt to have retired in his mid-50s. And, at first I kind of admired that. Thought, wow, that's great. You can retire in your mid-50s, and thought it seemed like a good thing. And he was happy to have retired because he didn't enjoy working in a corporation. So he saw retirement success. And many people look towards retirement, and the idea of not working is it's going to make them happy. But, people that retire, however, a lot of them aren't as happy in retirement as when they were working, and they're no longer doing anything. So, essentially they've given up. I was talking to an attorney yesterday that was saying that his wife's father was a dentist, and he was still working in his 80s. I mean, he probably could have given up a long time ago. And so, the most successful people out there, whether they're politicians or business people or writers, actors, they work very, very long, long into their careers, and they stay motivated and continue doing it. And you just have to look around you, and you have to ask yourself, if you're not succeeding, like what has happened to other people that haven't succeeded, whether they're politicians or business people, writers or actors. I mean, these people don't retire because they like what they do and they're not giving up. And so most of the successful people are still working until they die. I mean, look how old Trump is. Look how old Biden was. I mean, these people reach the pinnacle of their success because they keep trying, and they're motivated, they're active, they're enthusiastic, and they're getting up every day and achieving the things, and achieving things in their lives. And that matters. And you can be like this too. I mean, I work with attorneys all the time that are like in their late 70s and have these large books of business and want to move firms. And, so you have to figure out how to like what you're doing. And again, it doesn't have to be practicing law, but you have to do something that gives you energy. And you have to realize that there's a period of time where you're going to come up against incredible challenges in any profession. And it's important that you are able to overcome them. And it's important that you get to a place where you enjoy practicing law. How do you get to a place where you enjoy practicing law? I'll just talk about that real briefly. So anytime you're working for someone else and you don't have business, you're just working for someone else. That's your job. And so you come up against all this unpleasant stuff. You have to rely on others for survival. And that's what happens when you're practicing law without business. But when you get business in a law firm, and when you get to the point where you do have business, all of a sudden you're no longer working for a law firm. The law firm is actually working for you. It's providing you associates, it's providing you office space and IT and paralegals and hiring people and firing them and doing all this stuff for you that in exchange for you giving them a portion of your business. You can choose to move that anywhere. When you're running a business and clients rely on you and you're figuring out how to get things done, you're much, much better off than if you're not running a business. So think about that. Do you want to run a business? And people that are running businesses, and if you have your own clients, you're running a business, enjoy what they're doing. And so you should never, give up. And I really don't like seeing people give up. I don't like seeing people become contract attorneys. I don't like seeing people, work in firms that are beneath them if they can work in better firms. And, and when you have a good career, it gives you more income. It gives you the opportunity to keep improving. It makes you happy. And you shouldn't let others ever come between you and your dreams and what you want to do in your spirit. And your spirit, like what's inside of you and what drives you, is what makes you exactly who you are. So we'll take a quick break, and just for like a minute or two. I'm sorry I had this tech issue. And then when we come back, we'll take a couple minute break. And then when we come back, I'll answer questions. You can ask questions about this webinar, which I commend you for watching. I think hopefully it can help you quite a bit. You can ask questions about anything related to your career, and I'm happy to help you and hopefully motivate you if you're in a position where you feel underemployed or like you're not doing as well as you can, or if you feel like you're giving up. But any questions you have, it doesn't really matter. I'm happy to answer them. Answering questions is like my favorite part of the week because it's the opportunity to kind of see where people are coming from and help you. So thank you for watching, and I will be back in just a minute. And then when I come back, I'll answer any questions that you may have. Thanks. Okay, so before I go to questions, I wanted to show you this poem that I like. And I've always really liked this poem, but it says that life is just an employer. I bargain with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I beg to need me when I counted my scanning score. For life is just an employer. He gives you what you ask, but once you have set the wages, you must bear the task. I work for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I asked of life would have willingly paid. So just think about that. Like, what are your goals? What are you settling for? Because you may be settling for a lot less than you're capable of, and you need to do whatever you can to set very high goals and to do things that are going to be that will get you to where you want to go. Okay, so let's go to questions. Just give me 1 second, and I'll answer any questions that you have. And hopefully this will be helpful for you. So let's see here. Many attorneys leave law firms to go in-house, but I've heard from several who regret the move, citing stagnant career growth, lower compensation ceilings, and fewer opportunities to pivot back to law firms. What are the key warning signs that an in-house move might not be the right long-term decision? Okay, great question. Thank you for asking that. Again, this is an extremely good question, and I think can help a lot of people. So if you leave to go in-house, there's a lot of people, the reasons that you'll regret the move and why your career will be stagnant. The first thing is that when companies have important matters, they always send them to law firms. They don't have the in-house attorneys do it. So what happens in most in-house jobs, not all, is you become someone who essentially is doing the least sophisticated work and then spending a lot of your time, giving work to people that are actually doing significant work. So your job becomes more about farming work out than actually doing it. Or, that's one thing, but also, typically the work is not as sophisticated. That's one problem. The other problem is that when you go in-house, the jobs they're not secure. They're not secure because companies are doing all these things to make money. Those things may not work in the real world. And because the companies can go out of business. And so when a company goes out of business, you lose your job. And that's not a good thing. And when you lose your job, in-house jobs are hard to get. Everybody wants to work in-house. So you're going to be competing with people that have fresher skills that are in law firms and just may have a very difficult time finding a position. When you work for a company, you are a cost center, not a profit center. So law firms, all they need to do is sit you down at a desk and you can bill out at hundreds of dollars an hour, and they can pay you a fraction of what they're collecting from you in fees. When you work in a company, you may be viewed as a cost center and cut when they decide that they want a smaller legal department or they want to refer all their work out to law firms. You just don't know. So that will hurt you as well. You will be fired many times when a new CEO comes in. The new CEO may want to bring their own legal team. And so that legal team will replace you. That or a new general counsel will come in and want to bring their legal team. And that legal team will replace you. Career will often be stagnant. They don't need to pay in-house attorneys a lot of money because everybody wants to be an in-house attorney. So people will take less money for those jobs, and the law firm and the companies know it. That's why your compensation is set. Once you leave a law firm job, what happens is law firms will conclude that you no longer wanted to be in a law firm. So why would a law firm hire someone that made a move outside of a law firm? They would hire someone that's currently in a law firm. The person currently in a law firm is doing the work that they know that law firms do. So, they know exactly what it means to be working in a law firm doing a practice area. They don't know exactly what that means being in-house and doing a practice area. Law firms have reputations. So if you move to another law firm, the law firm you're working in, they'll have an idea of the type of work that law firm's doing. If you move in-house, they have no idea what the legal departments are. The legal departments of law firms are not ranked based on the quality of work that they do or their reputations. No one knows. So why would someone hire someone where they don't know what their legal experience is like? So working in-house, I think, is a really bad long-term decision. First of all, it limits your career length. You can practice law from the time you're 25 till the time you're 85 if you're working in a law firm. When you work in-house, you will be there for a length of time, but you'll often be forced to retire 30 or more years before someone in a law firm retires. So why would you do that? Why would you want to work one place where you don't have employment security, where you can't go back to a law firm, where your compensation ceiling is set, where your job is vulnerable to politics and new people and the economy? I mean, it's crazy. Law companies shut down offices and move people all the time. Like think about, there's all these companies that are in, California right now, and they're moving to places like Texas or Florida where taxes are lower. I mean, all of a sudden you try to establish a house and everything in a base, and then the company decides to close down an entire state and move you to another. I mean, there's all these things that happen inside of in-house jobs that are just very, very dangerous. And people do regret the move because they can't go back to law firms. If they lose their job, it's hard to get. They're not doing sophisticated work. The work can be boring. There's just all these huge problems in going in-house. I don't know why people do it, but you certainly can. But if you do, you're really going to not probably going to regret it because it's going to limit your employment security, and it's going to limit your career growth. Very, very risky decision. Okay, I know a lot of attorneys who quit practicing altogether, go into business or try alternative careers, but many later realized and underestimated how difficult it is to succeed outside of law. If someone is considering leaving, what are the most realistic non-legal career paths where they can thrive? Okay, so first of all, I want to make a couple observations. So a lot of times attorneys will try to start their own businesses, and starting your own business is something that entrepreneurs do. So are you really an entrepreneur? So people sometimes will look at entrepreneurs starting businesses and think, oh, I would like to do that. I could do that too. But entrepreneurs are scrappy. They have vision. They try to improve on what existing companies are doing. They see gaps and all these things. And an entrepreneurial person is different than someone trying to start a business. I was reading yesterday about Larry Ellison, who's this multi-billionaire and owns the island of Kauai in Hawaii. I mean, he owns an entire island. And he was, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal, and they were talking about how he was trying to develop all this new types of farming and things, and had a big thing and had spent $500 million and gotten nowhere. And that's an example of somebody going into something where they don't understand the rules. And it's probably not, he's a guy that's run Oracle, a tech company. He's not someone that has experience doing that. So he went into that and failed. And that's not to say that you'll fail, but if you do something that's not like you don't understand many times, and you have interest in it, but probably not full attention, you might fail. So alternative careers, like people may not like that and realize how difficult it is to succeed. But in general, I will say that people that do other careers that where they're competing with people that weren't as motivated them to do things like go to law school and get that training and go into law firms or whatever tend to succeed a lot more in alternative careers than people that don't take those paths. So, going into an alternative career, you could be very successful than if you did something where, if you continue practicing law. I mean, if you're practicing law and you don't have a passion for it and you don't see yourself ever succeeding and you don't see yourself ever having passion, even if you got business and so forth, then you need to put that into something that you're successful in. So what are the alternative careers? Attorneys start businesses. They go into administrative roles, sometimes inside of law firms or companies. They can go and do things like human resources. They can be politicians. They can be writers. They can be. I remember one of the. I sold my house once to this woman that was, married to. Her name was Gail Hurd, and she was married to, I forget the guy's name, but he got to University of Virginia Law School and became a successful screenwriter. I mean, you can do all these different things, and lawyers succeed in all sorts of different, careers. It's important to really be doing something you like. I think my dad said that, you have the time between you're in your mid 20s until you're in, until your mid 30s to figure out what you want to do. So you need to figure out what you want to do, and you need to go in something that you feel secure in and that you like. And I was in a situation when I was practicing law where I didn't see myself having passion and continuing to do it over a long period of time. I felt like it was too uncertain, even though it's not. You just need to generate business. I felt like there were all these issues that would make it difficult for me to continue with it. But, and then I found something that I have passion for. So you need to have something that you have passion for. And if you have passion for something, you're not going to fail because you're going to be competing against people that don't have that passion. If you have a passion for something, you're going to continue getting better and better. You're going to want to continue getting better and better. I mean, you read stories about people like Michael Jordan that, didn't make the high school basketball team or whatever, and then spent all this time just practicing and practicing and practicing because he really wanted to do it and became successful. And you can become successful too, but you need to have passion for whatever it is, and that passion will allow you to work harder, longer, and stronger than others. Okay, I've noticed that some attorneys leave law firms because they don't fit the firm culture or don't enjoy the type of work that they're doing, but then they struggle to find their footing elsewhere. How should attorneys differentiate problems that can be solved by switching firms versus problems that signal that they should leave the practice of law altogether? Okay, so that's a good question. So attorneys often don't fit the good firm culture. And if you're in a firm culture that doesn't match the way you see the world, then that's going to be a problem. I mean, if you're ultra liberal and everybody's ultra conservative there, that's going to be a problem. If you're in a firm that is composed of has a culture that is very outgoing and doesn't have rules, and you like to have more predictability in things, then that's going to be a better place for you. So every firm has a culture. And so a lot of what happens when people are unhappy is they're in their own culture. And I talk to attorneys where this happens all the time. Like the culture, they're not part of kind of like the in-group. And because they're not part of the in-group, they don't see themselves ever having any career mobility. And this is a big one. I mean, it's very, very important. So if you're not part of like the in-group in a firm, that may not have anything to do with you. That may just have to do with the type of people that are there. They may all be former college athletes. They may all be a certain religion. They may all be a certain political party. They may all have families. You just don't know. I mean, there could be all sorts of reasons that you don't fit in with the firm culture. So if you don't fit in with the firm culture, you just need to find a culture that matches you, and you'll thrive. I talked to a woman last week, and she'd been at a firm for 5 years, had an amazing firm, had an amazing pedigree, and I spoke to her and had lots of hours. She was working 2,400 hours a year, but she concluded that because the way the firm culture was, and because she didn't necessarily fit in, she wanted to find a firm culture where she would be valued mainly for the work and not for her ability to get along or be part of a group of a certain type of people. So these are good reasons to leave and to find it from culture. I think everyone, by the way, you should always be looking for a job. I don't think there's anything wrong with Indeed and LinkedIn and Law Crossing and thing, always looking for jobs or seeing what's out there, because you may find something that's much better for you, and that gives you what you're looking for. So that's always something. You shouldn't just look for a job when you're forced to look at a job. You should look for a job when you feel like maybe a better culture would work for you. And so sometimes people don't enjoy the work they're doing and want to switch practice areas. That's always another option you can take. You can try to do that, but you probably need to move to a firm and start from ground zero. So when should you leave the practice of law? I mean, you should leave the practice of law when something else appeals to you much more than working in practice of law. I mean, you may not like sitting in an office all day in front of a computer, and I can definitely emphasize with that. There's all sorts of things you can do that are not that. People become BI agents, CIA operatives. They become part of the State Department. They do all these things that give them a career satisfaction compared to doing other things. So you can find all sorts of jobs doing different things that aren't practicing law, or start your own business. Always have that. Okay, so what are the key factors that determine whether an attorney will actually be happier in a smaller or more specialized practice? Okay, so more specialized practices are always good. The reason it's good to be more specialized is because when you're more specialized, there's fewer attorneys with your specialization. So that can make it easier to get a job if you specialize as opposed to non-specialized, if a firm's looking for someone like you. But there may be fewer jobs the more specialized you are. And working in a smaller law firm can often have advantages. Typically, many smaller law firms are not as competitive in terms of hours and what's expected, and competing to stay there and all these sorts of things find in a larger, more competitive firm. So in the larger, more competitive firm, people are fighting to be partners and make millions of dollars a year. In a smaller law firm, the people aren't doing that. They're likely to be happier not being specialized. Not making that amount of money. So people will typically represent smaller clients. So if you're representing smaller clients, the work isn't going to be as sophisticated, but you may enjoy that more. You may have more client contact. So, anytime you think about leaving a specialty and becoming more specialized, that's usually a good decision. Anytime and because you'll also, if you're specialized, you'll be able to get clients for specialized type matters. And then, are you happier in a smaller firm? Smaller firms, people typically stay there longer. You can often have a much longer career because it's not as competitive. So working in a smaller firm can often be, a really, really good decision for people as well. I've encountered situations where I see feedback that feels more like an attack than an attempt to help me improve. How do I assess whether someone generally wants to help versus someone trying to discourage me from succeeding in my legal career? Well, so when people are attacking your work or attacking things that you've done, that may not seem like an attempt to help you to improve, but regardless of who it comes from, you need to listen to it very closely, because people that are, that are telling you these things, you need to take them seriously. You can't just take them as an attack and get mad at the person. So what do a lot of people do when someone criticizes their work or something? They turn around and figure out all these criticisms of the person that's criticizing them, instead of really trying to make an effort in whatever they're being criticized about, and just, taking that criticism seriously. So how do you assess whether someone wants to help you versus trying to discourage you? If you're getting attacks from people that are superior to you, then they're probably trying to get you to improve. Like, law firms don't want to fire people. They want them to do good work and stick around, because if you're sitting there and you're billing hours, you're making the law firm money. So why wouldn't they want you to keep making the money? They just want you to do work or do whatever it is at the standard they expect of that firm. So I would not take that as discouragement. I would take that as people actually genuinely trying to, help you improve. I mean, that's how I would take it, even if it feels like criticism. Criticism can be very, very hard, especially when you're a young attorney, because you're learning everything for the first time. So you have no way of knowing if you're doing things correctly or not. So it can be very difficult when you start as a new attorney, because the criticism is basically showing you how to do things that you don't learn when you're in school. Okay, many attorneys who live big law regret not having stayed longer, particularly because of they miss out on partnership tracks, alumni networks, and exit opportunities that come with more experience. What is the minimum amount of time an attorney should stay in big law before making a move to maximize long-term career options? So generally, to maximize your success, you want to be in a large law firm, preferably 5 years. So once you're there for 5 years, you have a lot of options. Attorneys that have, 3 to 6 years of experience are much more marketable than attorneys that have less experience or more experience. When you're a mid-level attorney, you're not a threat to firms for becoming a partner. I mean, you're not a threat. I mean, they don't feel like they have to make you a partner right away. You're going to try very hard, they believe, and still compete. So you always have the option to move to other big law firms then. It's harder when you're a junior associate because you don't have enough experience yet. And then it's harder when you're a senior associate because senior associates typically don't have, they have too much experience in their billing rate and so forth is competitive with partners. So generally, you want to try to stay there 5 years. If you're there for 5 years, then you have options to move to a smaller firm, or if you want to move in-house, you have those options too. But 5 years is typically kind of the magic number for staying in big law. And the why 5 years is because that's how long it takes to learn a practice area. So if you stay in a big law firm 5 years, that says a lot about what kind of attorney you are, that you're good, that you can survive there, and then you're going to have a lot of other options. So I'm just reading these questions. Some of them are, yeah, I'm at a competitive workplace and it depresses me when I see people who are less qualified but better at networking for a variety of reasons and getting good business as a result. How can I build my confidence when not feel like leaving? Well, people that are less qualified will often try harder, and because they believe that they need to, so they'll try to network more. They'll try to get business. They'll try to work harder. It's interesting when attorneys are trying to move firms, with maybe after 3 years in their career or something like that, and a law firm is faced with someone that has off the chart really good qualifications and someone that doesn't have as good of qualifications. It may not be as good of a firm. The law firm will often interview the person that doesn't have as good of qualifications, that isn't as good of a firm, because that they figure that person's going to try harder, and not be kind of not as enthusiastic about a new firm they might be going to. So it's a good idea to remain resilient and keep trying. Networking is important. Trying to get business. Does that mean how do you build confidence? I mean, you build confidence by doing things to do better than the people you're competing with. I mean, that's just as simple as it is. You do better work. You work harder. You do extra. You do extra things for partners. You get on the side of people that have power in the law firm and not the other way around. So all these things, if you can do them, will make you much more successful. And the only way to do it is to outcompete the people you're working with and keep your head down. Now, sometimes keeping your head down just means not getting involved in politics and everything, and just doing the best work you can and letting people shoot themselves in the foot eventually that are political, or letting other people leave and being the only person there. And then the firm will evaluate your loyalty and things and think highly of that. So those are, some of the things I would recommend. Next question. For attorneys who gave up, did you see any making a comeback from that, and how did they build their confidence again? So yes, I mean, attorneys who give up, can always come back from that. You just need to develop persistence. You need to think about the reasons you gave up. And then you need to really get your head in the game and start trying as hard as you possibly can. A legal career is a very long thing. So, most attorneys graduate from law school at about the age of 25. So if you have 60 years to compete and practice law, like just because you gave up at year 3 of year 60 or year 10 of year 60 doesn't mean you can't come back from that. Anybody can. So, I see people making comebacks all the time and building confidence. Sometimes, it's a matter of just working with the right recruiter that can help get you into opportunities. I've had lots of people that I've worked with that have given up. Telling a story to someone yesterday about, I've got so many stories I could tell, but, people that had horrible career failures and hadn't worked for years, and then kept trying and applying places, and eventually were able to find firms where they became incredibly successful, starting at a small firm and then using that to move into a large firm and just keep coming back. So if you have the ability to do that, and you should, then you can be, extremely successful. You just need not give up. I would read the book Think and Grow Rich. I mean, I really recommend that to everybody because that can be very helpful. It teaches you about all these things about persistence and about continuing to never give up and do better and better. Okay. Could you talk about prosecutor, public defender, and other government related career goals? Sure. So prosecutors and public defenders are jobs that people actually often have a lot of enthusiasm for, and you can do those for the rest of your career if you enjoy that. So those jobs will typically have, lower hours. You'll get to go to court. You'll be, often doing things that you're passionate about, whether it's putting people in prison or getting them out. So I think that for people that want to do litigation and are is concerned about making money, those are very good positions. You can also parlay them into doing things like being in politics or becoming a judge. So I like those jobs for people. I think they can be very good jobs, and and you can do things and continually grow from them. There's all sorts of jobs in the government. You can be an FBI agent in the CIA. You can, there's all sorts of government jobs out there at the state, federal, state and federal level. I mean, there's tons of them, and to find government jobs, it's not that difficult. There's websites for government jobs only. There's websites for city usually has a website with jobs on it for attorneys, and they don't always have attorney jobs, but these attorney jobs are not, and government careers are not that difficult. And some people have a passion for government jobs. The problem with a lot of government jobs, not necessarily prosecutors or defenders, is that public defenders is that they're more bureaucratic in nature. So being a bureaucrat is different than practicing law. So bureaucrats will, basically, be bureaucrats. Will carry out orders for other people. They're administrative in nature. There's not a lot of accountability. You can see like this week where Musk and Trump were asking people to list the 5 things they did, bullet points each week, and everyone was revolting against that. I mean, if you can't list, 5 things, I mean, this is what a bureaucrat would do. Like they just often don't have a lot of responsibility. I was talking to a guy I went to law school with that was a government attorney with the Army, and he said that all these people just sit there and don't really do any work each day, and then just continually build up their resumes with all this inconsequential stuff they've done. And he said he'd never seen anything like it. So a lot of times, if you go into a role where there is accountability, like being a prosecutor, defender, you can do well. I know a woman that was a partner in a good sized firm in the Silicon Valley or San Francisco, and she went into the State Department and loves it. I mean, she just issues passports and that sort of thing. But for her, that was a good career. Please repeat the name of the book you just mentioned. Oh yeah, the book's name is Think and Grow Rich. Okay, this one is why are there so fewer younger attorneys who are willing to put in passion, hard work? Well, younger attorneys, there aren't a few of them. I mean, there are a lot of them. There's always people that are doing that, because if there weren't, the whole system would fall apart. So a lot of attorneys are unwilling to do that, and the ones, if they're not unwilling to do that, then they're never going to advance. So I mean, there's a lot of attorneys that are passionate and are willing to put in the work, and there's ones that aren't. The ones that aren't are never going to reach their potential. So are there more people that aren't motivated now than there were 25 years ago? I mean, I heard the same thing 25 years ago, that people didn't want the hours and weren't motivated in things that I'm hearing today. I think it's just always been that way. So I think it's about the people you surround yourself with too. So if you surround yourself with people that are motivated, you're more likely to be motivated. I mean, what's the point of great colleges and so forth? The point of great colleges is that people that you're going to be surrounded by are the most motivated. It's not because you're learning anything different. It's because you're surrounding yourself with motivated people. Okay. Next question. Yeah, and I'm almost done with questions. So if anybody has any more, you can ask them now. Otherwise, we're almost out of them. Okay, what are some specific steps should someone take before making the decision to leave to ensure they're making a choice they will later regret? Are there particular trends in the type of attorneys who successfully transition back than those who struggled? Okay, so when you make the decision to leave, you have to know, like just from the bottom of your heart, that this isn't something that you want to do. You'll feel it. You'll wake up every day unhappy. You'll go home every day unhappy, and that may be a sign that you don't like it. Now, sometimes you may not. You'll feel that way because of the type of people you're working with, but other times you'll feel that way just because you just to test what a lawyer does. You don't like the research, the writing, or whatever. So if you feel that way, why would you regret leaving? I mean, you will know when you want to leave, just like you'll know if you're in a romantic relationship when you want to end it. So you have to know that it's something that you're going to regret. And then your next question: are there trends in the type of attorneys who transition back versus those who struggle? I mean, the people that transition back are people that can find something in the practice of law that they enjoy, and there's reasons that they want to do it, and maybe they just weren't around the right people, maybe they weren't doing the right type of work. So sometimes attorneys may be, in large law firms and think, this isn't passionate for me. So instead of doing that, practicing law, they will do something related to not practicing law, and or they'll go into a different type of, they'll become personal injury attorneys instead of corporate attorneys, or they'll become, they'll do things that are family law attorneys instead of litigation attorneys, and then really enjoy, what they're doing, what they're doing next. So it all depends on, what you want to do and what makes you passionate. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for the questions. I hope you got a lot out of this presentation today. And, I appreciate you watching this. I think it's very smart to watch these kind of presentations because it can give you the motivation to succeed and tell you about what you need to do. And so I will be back next week. So thank you very much.